Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special Talking Some episode. We have Rob with us. Welcome.
Hi, how's it going? How are you?
Very good, and been looking forward to talking with you, Rob. And before we hear your story, I just want to share that we connected on Instagram after you were a client of ours, and I said, hey, you want to be a guest? And you said yes, so I'm very excited about that. And one more thing, real quickly, if you listening at home, if you would like to be a guest and share your story, please let me know. Send me an email or let me know in the comment section because this gives the community so much hope. So I'm really grateful for everyone who wants to become a guest. So with that said, Rob, tell us your story, how it started, and how everything developed.
Oh man, you know what's so funny is I believe it was Charlene's episode. The Charlene was that Charlene? Yeah,
Arlene,
and
yeah.
she said something where she's like, oh, I could imagine one day that I could be a guest on here. And when I remember watching these, I was like, oh, if I could ever get to the point where I could be a guest on here, that'd be so cool. So it was like a funny moment, like we just said that. But to start with my story, my insomnia started back in say 2019. I had issues, like I think a lot. I don't know. I would say just most people in general, but most people on this channel, I had issues with like anxiety, panic disorder, and like 10 years ago, but never really affected my sleep, my anxiety as much. Just if I had something like big the next day, but I would just kind of let it pass. But in 2019, I got a sleep tracker. And I'm a personal trainer, and a lot of my friends are like, I'm into health and fitness and stuff too. And we would compare like scores. So basically, you would sleep, and then it would give you a score. And my score was like, it wasn't, everyone kept beating me, and I'm like, this can't be right. Like, why, I'm losing every single night. Like, it's got to be the blue light. Okay, so I stopped the blue lights. I was like, I need to up my magnesium intake, like more magnesium. And just how it goes from there. It's just I went down a rabbit hole, and I just found myself like scores getting worse and worse. Finally, I abandoned that. I was probably sleeping, like, I think when I was doing that, probably 2 to 3 hours a night. And then decided it was time to get help. And I saw a psych and a therapist. Um, the psych put me on a couple different meds that didn't really work, but weirdly enough, I got really attached to, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second. But I didn't really see much from it. I would see like maybe like a week, or it was like, I'd take it and then sleep for a night, and then it was like kind of a weird like up down. But for the most part, nothing. And then the therapist I was working with, I started doing CBT-I. And then I went from like 2 to 3 hours a night to like zero. And I got to tell you, I was there were weeks when I was up the whole week. I was up from like Monday to Sunday, and I was just in such a place where that's why I'm actually like nervous going to your channel, because I was like, oh my god, like I was in such a like, it kind of reminded me of the place I was at. And yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard, but I found your channel, and I really wish I could find the comment on Reddit while I was looking for more information about like sleep supplements and things. I was typing in, and I happened to see someone was like, "Oh, you need to go check out so and so." So I clicked on the channel, and I think the first video was about hyperarousal. And it was like, are you experiencing X, Y, Z, and like this? And I was like, yes, 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 yes. And like, I could just feel my anxiety just be like, whew. I was like, oh my God, I'm not dying. Like, I can't go in Healthline again and look at anything else, or, have all these recommendations. And it was a lot. It was a lot. It was, yeah, it was a really, really tough time.
Wow. Thanks for sharing again, Rob. And I want to ask one thing, which was, you were really into fitness. You got this tracker. You started sort of competing with your friends, and then you started being like, "This can't be right." You get the blue light and up the magnesium, and this is where you start having trouble sleeping, right? And how, did
Sure.
this develop over a long period of time, or was it a pretty quick thing that happened, or how did that period transition, or how did that happen?
So it's funny, like I was trying to remember different periods. So it's kind of stretched over a period of time when it kind of started getting worse. Like my sleep wasn't great before then. It wasn't like I was a great sleeper. It was like back in the day. But when I'd have to wake up early for a client, excuse me, a really early client at like 6 a.m., I would get like, I would probably like, I would try to go to sleep earlier. And then what would happen is I would like end up sleeping late. Like, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. And I'm like, I don't know why I can't go to sleep for my 6 a.m. client. And then another time it popped up. I was doing like this like fitness competition, and I was physically trying to go to sleep. And like, it just, it was like so many nights I wouldn't. And then I would be like, oh, I'll just take a Benadryl or, something like that. And that's what I was like relying on for that. And that was a long time ago before then. But I wasn't putting as much pressure as I was with the sleep tracker, and that's when I started putting like so much pressure. And at the time, there was so many advertisements and like posts, everything about you sleep and you need sleep for fitness, and like if you don't sleep, you won't see results, you won't be able to focus, you won't have strength, you won't have this. And it was like every book that was coming out was talking about that. Everyone, it was such a huge trend at the time. And I would argue that it still is, with the wearables and all of that stuff. And yeah, and I got into it, and it's just like really, really like, I turned, when it starts going, I was problem solving, just kept going, going. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit.
Not at all, but so it was that. So I totally see it. Like for a long period of time, there had been a little bit of this idea that sleep is important, and when there was an important
Mm,
event, you struggle with
sure.
sleep. But it was really when the tracker seems like that kind of catalyzed it, in lack of a better word, and it became like a real struggle. And
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, going back to like this, you try CBT, and like was that kind of a more traditional program? It was like 6 or 8 weeks, or and how long did you stay with it, and what happened with that?
So at the time, because it's in quarantine, and I was working with, she was super nice, she was super sweet, and she was very helpful. But I was doing, so it was like I believe like I think it was an 8 week program, I want to say. And I started in the beginning. I think when I started, I was sleeping like two. We would actually like look at like, I think I was looking at my sleep in the beginning. Maybe she was too, just comparatively. But we did like it was a more traditional CBT-I, and I had like a workbook because I would do like exercises and stuff with it too. But like one of them was like, stay out of the bedroom until you go. And I had this thing with my bedroom where like I'll step in my bedroom, and it was like you know what I mean? Like my nervous system would just react to like my bedroom because of like all the hyper arousal I built. So I mean, it just through the CBTI, it unfortunately didn't work for me because and then I started meditating more. I started really like, oh, I need to be mindful more all day. It's just more effort, right? And just kind of added more attachment to it. So it just kind of just put it over the edge where it was getting up to a place that was tough. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one more question was that, like this period from you got the tracker, and it was more this intense struggle. How and until you found the YouTube channel, let's say, how long of a period was that?
Oof, the intense struggle lasted for CBTI. That could have been like, I mean, I would say like a year and a half. You know,
It was that long. I didn't know
well,
it was going
actually,
to.
sorry, the intense struggle, it was pretty long though, Daniel. I would say
Yeah.
because maybe not the whole maybe a year and a half is like when it started, when it was just a couple hours of sleep. But when it started getting like that bad, I would say like it was like 5 to 7 nights per week. That was probably, I want to say like maybe 6 8 months, but it was a long time. And
It
it
was.
was yeah, and I was experimenting with like medications with my doctor at the time. She was like, "No, we'll figure it out on the next one. We'll figure it." And we like just kept playing with it. So I had like this like little hope, and there would be little times where I would like, I would take something and like, oh, I'm sleeping a little bit, and then it would just stop. So it was tough. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've, before we talk about like where things started to change, and what I think will help the community so much, just maybe just a few more things on this, like, the struggle here. You tried CBTI, that actually made things even worse. You experimented with medications, nothing offered like long-term relief. And I'm guessing you also tried like supplements and sleep hygiene
Oh
and
yeah.
things like that. Tell us what you tried.
I had a whole there was a whole procedure before bed. You know what I mean? It was like supplements and this and 400 of magnesium, and then and it was a lot. It was a lot, and it was a lot of effort.
And how
Yeah.
did you like daytime? How did you function during the days?
Honestly, I felt terrible. Like I felt every morning I'd wake up. I'm not even gonna lie. Those mornings I wake up and cry. I would cry. I would just be like, I would be so broken down. I'd feel so helpless. I would just, I just felt like I was at that place where I was like, my body physically doesn't sleep. I've been up for like 7 days, and I was almost afraid to tell people. My girlfriend was really the only one who was, thank God for her. She's so understanding with it, and like has been with me through the process, because during that time was so it was dark. It was really hard. Uh, um, but sorry, I just got sidetracked for a second.
No, no, you
Yeah.
you answered. It was really
Oh yeah,
tough.
perfect.
You
Cool,
started in the
cool.
morning,
Yeah, it
but
was super
you
difficult.
still
Yeah,
somehow kind of powered through your days, or like what was it like?
yeah. I did. I just tried to like I powered through it. To be honest though, like because it was during COVID, my work was a little bit slower. I could do more like online stuff, and honestly, it was a time too where like I was working less because of it, and I that was something I was feeding into it too. Is I was like, well, I can't wake up in the morning and do a client like this. This is crazy. Like, there's no way I'm gonna get through this session. Like so that was the whole cycle, right? So like I was working less. I was yeah, and I was like taking less opportunities to see clients, and it was tough. Yeah, it was hard.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just want to clarify for everyone that's tuning in. Often it can seem like it's a good thing that we have less on our schedule, because then like a lot of people can think like, oh my gosh, if I had to work today, then how would I do that? I'm so tired and exhausted. But often it can be the opposite. Actually, if have obligations and we're kind of forced to do things, it just distracts us from the struggle. It can be a little easier. So I just want to sort of point that out to people in the audience there. So yeah, I think you've given us a really a real picture of what the struggle was like, how long it was, how intense it was, etc. And then you shared that somebody on Reddit talked about the YouTube channel. You came across this episode on hyperarousal, and you already then felt like the anxiety kind of going down instead of learning, right? Take us
Like
from there, yeah.
tenfold. So and then from there, I mean, I really just started. Thank God, Daniel, for you, because like it's the information that you see out there right now. There's nothing makes you feel like relaxed, or like gives an accurate display of kind of what's going on. But anyway, I consume thank you for that. And I consumed all your content, and like I would just watch video after video, and to a point too where I was like, this is a little bit of effort type of situation, like go back a little bit, let the process let it happen. But yeah, I figured that out after, like, along the way. But it just felt so good to just to hear it and be like, oh my god, and then see a community of people like me, and I'm like, oh my god, there's other people experiencing this. And you know what, like, that was a big part of it too. Like, it actually like helped me during the days where I'll talk about this too, the days where like I didn't feel great, like felt pretty about me, but I was like, I'm still gonna book my regular day. I'm gonna go about it. I'm gonna work out, and I'm gonna like do, at the time I've been doing I've been training a lot of like gymnastics, and I have a coach who and like Olympic lifting, and they're like really intense, like high skill movements. And a lot of times when I wouldn't sleep, I'd be like, there's no way I could do that. Like, I'll be off balance. I'll do that. And I would not sleep for like, I would go in after like 3 or 4 days of like minimal sleep. I would, 0 to like 1 or 2 hours, and I would still do it. I'd make myself do it. And sure, sometimes it was really hard, but a lot of times I surprised myself. And then I'd be like, oh, okay. Like I'm like, oh, that like fogginess and energy type of thing. I was like, it lifted. Like that was, like my brain was just didn't want me to do it. So that was interesting. And I think that was a huge breakthrough for me as well.
Absolutely. I've heard that one
Yeah.
so many times. Always so helpful when we see that we can do things that we thought were impossible, even if we slept very little. So
Yeah.
helpful. And then you joined our Insomnia Immunity program.
I did. Yep. And I did the Insomnia Immunity, which was super helpful. And like all the coaches there, and just having like the Slack channel, like I went on and asking questions and again immediate feedback, and just being part of the community just felt like, because you feel so alone during that whole process, because you're around people who never don't know what that issue is, or like I've never had issues with it, and you just think you're like, is this just me? Like, there's no one else in the world is going through this right now. But then when you see other people are too, and we all really are all like I do believe like a lot anyone could kind of get themselves in this situation if you put enough effort in. You know what I mean? Like, if you tried hard enough, you could. Yeah, yeah. It might be my like a personality type, but I think anyone can, to be honest. Yeah. So I'm sorry. So my
No, we were
sorry, I
just
just got
talking about how
sidetracked again.
you
Okay.
absolutely you joined the Insomnia Immunity program.
I keep
And
rambling.
No, not at all.
Oh,
You found it
insomnia
helpful,
program.
and yeah. And let me
It's
ask you,
super, super helpful. Yeah.
were you did you join a lot of dropping classes?
So I wasn't. I think I saw two. I was in for a couple months. I was in. You had every week, right? Those were the live classes.
Yeah, we had them every week. And I just don't remember you from dropping classes. That's why I think you were
I
maybe
was
more
kind of
active.
I was kind of like I was kind of like lurking around. Like I was in the programs, but I was like you know what I mean? Like I was lurking around. And at the time too, like this was a like I'll talk about that time in particular. Like so, after I saw your videos, I saw the channel. It was a huge it was a big anxiety relief, and I was like, okay, this is great. And then it got hard again because I was like, okay, I'm still in this cycle. You know what I mean? And it's tough to surrender and accept I'm gonna go through this, because there's no way to not go around it. Like all the analogies and like all the, when you reference the movies and like everything is so spot on. Like there was the Matrix and there was like the War
War
Games, because I
games.
remember that
Yeah.
one. War Games. That War Games was a great one because your brain, like when you're going through that, has to try different things. And correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel. You almost have to get sidetracked at points. Like it's almost like I would in myself. Like it's so. Just to let everyone know here, like I was at, I was such a tough place with it. It wasn't a perfect recovery, and it's still, it's not like it wasn't completely perfect. There were many times when I would take my medication, but I'd be like seeing myself do it, and I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but like I'm gonna take it because my brain's telling me, and that impulse would get me sometimes. But then I'd use the kindness too. So I really liked how we had that model too. But yeah, trying to be kind to myself throughout the process. But it was hard, and your brain can really pull you if you continue to listen. Like if you really got attached to certain things. I felt that, and it was it's a tough one to break, but it loosens over. I felt like it loosened over time, even when I was still taking it. I would take it, but I would still feel like the attachment was it was starting to loosen up, and I would just see it would be easier and easier each time.
So helpful. And I think we should definitely spend even a little bit more time on this subject, which is like, you find one of my books or the channel, or you join the Insomnia Immunity program, and you start learning, and it can be such a relief, just like understanding that in itself can lead to like a period of time where you sleep really well. But as you said, like when the brain has been in this kind of like fearful place, and it thinks like, not sleeping is bad, it's dangerous. It really never is that linear progress. It's a bumpy path. And you said like, is it true that we sort of have to get sidetracked? Yeah, I think that is true. Meaning like it's a process of the brain kind of allowing the brain to try things. It tries like the supplements. It tries the wind down routine, and it basically has to learn that none of that can make you sleep, and that is sort of painful because the brain wants to find something that works, and every time it doesn't, it's like it is painful. It can be a really painful process. But when you have that foundation of education, then I think, yeah, the disattachment, the becoming less attached, it is still happening, even if you're doing things that aren't correct, that you're not supposed to. It's still happening in the background, in the subconscious level, something like that. Did that make sense? What I just said?
Oh, totally, 100%. So one of the other things that really really helped me, Daniel, was kind of, I think this. Correct me if I'm wrong. It might be. I think it's what we're talking about. But there was this video you posted, and this was probably like 4 or 5 months that I discovered your channel. My sleep it was getting a little bit better. Like it would get better, but then it would get, you'd hit a speed bump and you'd be like, I'm stuck in this. Like I'm gonna, I want to try again. Maybe I need medication. Like you said, your brain would try to figure it out again. But there was one video that you put up where it was like, just let things sort themselves out. Basically, like you have the education, like you have the understanding, and it's like just let things sort themselves out. And I put that on my phone. I had it on my phone. It was like I put it in a note, and then I saved it to my wallpaper. And anytime I would just look at that, anytime I would start doing something or whatever, and I would look at that and say, oh, okay, just let things sort themselves out. And I would just let things happen as it was, and it was almost like I wasn't fighting things, but over time it went the way I wanted to, but I was still getting sidetracked, but I was letting it happen, right?
Absolutely.
A lot less resistance. Yeah.
I think that's we're getting into this. Like, I have so many clients that are in that place, that are like, they have the education, they've seen some magic. They've seen that sleep happens when you do a little bit. They're still struggling, and then it can be so frustrating because you're like, you feel like there's just this, I just can't grasp it, and that is where like this mystery comes in, where like we don't know exactly how the brain figures it out, but we sort of have to let it figure it out. Exactly as you said, like if we try to micromanage it, it's not going to work. It's like we have to sort of give it space and confidence to sort itself out. I think that's so helpful that you share that.
Yeah, and it's tough to let go. It's tough to like, and that's the thing too, is you're like, no, no, no. There's something we can do. Like we don't have to wait. We don't have to do this. It's like there's something we can do right now. But really, it's that. It's it's just like it's surrendering to it. And was it the North Star video that you just posted? Was similar to that?
Yeah, it was exactly that. But
That was great. Yeah,
it's funny because as you were mentioning that what you just said about putting it on your phone, that was a while ago, right?
that was a long time ago. That was I have to find this video, but you were talking about um it ended with you were saying just let things sort themselves out. It was
Yes.
like if you
And
put too much effort. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, it's just funny because when you said that, in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, it's the same idea as this North Star idea that I just have now that I'm going to talk more about. It's the exact same idea.
Oh yeah, yep.
Um, and by the way, for somebody that's confused, I haven't shared it on YouTube. I just shared it on Instagram. That it's the same idea, but presented as like you can give your brain sort of a North Star, which is like let things be or something, or or try less to sleep, something like that. But exactly how to get there, you just let the brain figure it out. That's the North Star analogy. But yeah, I think some people in the audience will surely be interested in like, okay, you went from this place of like intense struggle, you went like days in a row with no sleep. Then you found my YouTube channel, the community, etc. And sleep wise, like, can you tell us a little bit of how things change sleep wise?
Sure. Like hyperarousal, like I'm pretty sure in the beginning, like it was so intense. You know, it was so intense. It was almost like it was. I mean, it was a scary night to like be up, like just looking around. I felt like there were things floating. Like I felt like I was like seeing things. I wasn't really comprehending a lot of things. Like I remember I'd have to watch the same videos or watch the same things, but after you each time you go through it, and every night each time you go through it, it gets easier and easier, and like over time it just started to die down, like like everyone said, like it's very gradual. Now I sit in bed and it's I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch some TV, and then I'm up. And last night I just fell asleep, and that was it. It was the whole night, and I woke back up, and that's what I used to do like a long time ago. But it felt so good to be like, oh my god. And it's still nights that like it happens though, and like I haven't had, not like full blown, but if I'm anxious the next day, I can now sense and be like, oh, I'm anxious right now. Like I have some sort of like performance anxiety or something like that, and I'm like, okay, this is why I'm staying. I'm in a hyper aroused state. It's just let it be, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's so helpful. Exactly. Like, we're
yeah.
all gonna have some stressful thing and be hyper aroused. But then when we say like, when we say like, of course I'll sleep less, then there's no mystery and there's no problem solving, and we sleep less, but then we don't react to it, and then there's nothing more to it really. And I wanted to ask you this one, which is, you know, having gone through this real journey here, like learning about yourself, the inner journey, and all these things, have you found that what you learned is helpful, in other aspects of life?
Oh my god, man. And I was gonna say that so it's so crucial. Like, and it's not so crucial. I mean, it's just opened my eyes for like so many things. Just like general anxiety during the day. Like there's things I'm starting to apply to that. Like there's things I'm applying to. I mean, I can apply things for my clients in particular, no, fitness in particular. Like fitness is kind of a like I've kind of used this analogy of like, with like fitness and results. It's a process, right? And it's a journey, and you accept the process, just kind of let it happen and like ride it out. And it's so similar to just so many things where it's just, just you just let it be, let it happen, and like let things happen naturally. But I mean, I'm using it, and now I have a really good sense of like I love it. Not that I love, but going through the process, just like I'm really good at picking up like, oh, I'm anxious right now, or this is a performance anxiety, and like, am I adding performance anxiety, which I think was a huge one as well. While I was going through the process, especially when I was consuming your content, I was. I was almost like, okay, I need to start doing, I need more courage. And I'm like, I need courage. I have to have courage right now. You know what I mean? Like, I have to be strong and I have to go through this night. And I would make it like this thing where I'd be all hyped up. Okay, I'm going to have courage. And like, really, like, you look at it after and I'm like, oh, okay, I saw what I was doing there. But yeah, I can see it in all aspects. You can apply NATO to anything. Yeah, it's really awesome. It's great.
So glad to hear.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just to, like, I think you just said this in passing, but you said like, I saw what I was doing there. I think that is so helpful when we start being like, we're not in this, how should I say, like, it sounds like a little judgy, but it's kind of mindless state where
Oh,
we just
completely.
react
Yeah,
to things, right? To like,
reactive. Yeah, just
ah,
reactive.
you see where the brain is going. Like, I saw what you were trying to get me to do there, and then that alone, the awareness, kind of like the whole thing kind of fizzles when we're just aware of it, right?
It just fizzles and it's just like it's easier and easier and easier. And like I'm coming from a place where like I felt like I was up for like 2 weeks one time. Like I was about to spend like 14 days. It was just it was scary. It was super scary coming from that place and like being where I am now. So so I was about a year and a half, maybe. Yeah, probably more. A year and a half. Such a huge difference. And like, you know, you just you have to go through the process. And like the more you surrender and just let things happen. And like even if you are doing something you know you shouldn't do, just the awareness of it alone loosens that detachment. So like I would beat myself up and be like, oh, I took the sleep medication, took the sleep medication, took the sleep medication. But over time I'd be like, I would take it and be like, I could put it back. You know what I mean? Or I'd be like, no, I don't need it tonight. Or I'd forget it. And it just happened. It happened naturally. And it was, you know, it's required zero effort. And it was, yeah. And it's cool that like that's the way it went. Cause I was like, I'm going to surrender. I really hope this works. I really hope it works. And if I didn't see all the videos that you guys posted there, and I mean, you know, of course, your consent, I would, yeah, it was a tough place to get out of. So thank you to everyone who, you know, was posted too. It's cool.
Amazing, wonderful. I just have one last question for you, which is, if you could say something to yourself when you were in this struggle, what would you say to yourself?
Oh my God. Let things sort themselves out. I don't think I'd comprehend that though. But I would just keep saying it. I would keep saying it. I'd have that message just haunt me everywhere. You know what I mean? Like I'd post it
That's
all
good.
over paint my apartment with it. Let things sort themselves out.
I think I think you would thank yourself for saying that to yourself for sure. It's such a helpful message,
Yeah.
and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Rob, I think I just want to say thank you. So helpful.
Thank you.
It's been so helpful to the community. Thanks for being on and be in touch.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much.
Bye now.